This conference will now be recorded.
We're good.
Seriously?
You're good, tree count.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the Chesterfield Township Committee meeting
Use that gap.
on.
I mean, young. He's young. Like this gavel. Your name. Amazing. Yeah.
Hello. Good evening, everybody.
All right, we're starting the meeting.
Starting the meeting, please. Good evening. I would like to call the Chesterfield Township Committee meeting on May 8th at 7 p.m. to order. Let's have a flag salute and a moment of silence, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Can we have the sunshine statement and roll call, please?
Sure. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting has been given by filing written notice with the township governing body and the township clerk, mailing written notice to the township's official newspapers and the township website, posting written notice on the official bulletin board in the Chesterfield Township Municipal Building, and providing notice to all who have requested same. Ms. Batra?
Here.
Ms. Hughes?
Here.
Mr. Litt?
Here.
Ms. Codestale?
Here.
Mr. Dopty?
Here. Thank you. Are there any agenda matters requiring recusal?
No.
Hearing none, moving on to section 4, the approval of minutes for April 24th meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Section 5, this is the first session for public comments. Can I have a motion to open it for public comments?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I don't know if we just want to point out that we have changed the protocol for this, just so everyone knows that it's no longer limited to agenda items only.
Open to anybody.
It's open to any public comment.
So do we have anybody in the public who would like to make a public comment? It does not have to be on a item relating to the agenda. Please state your name and address.
Yes, good evening. My name is Harold Dauncey. I am a resident at 59 Marjoram Road, and I'd like to say good evening to you, Mayor, and council people. I stand before you tonight to bring up the issue of the widening and paving of Marjoram Road. I recently bought my home. I've been there about 6 months. I learned shortly thereafter that this project was in flux. And I was disturbed by the fact that we were going to take a road that basically now is 19 feet, if you were measured it, to roughly 28 feet wide. This is a secondary road, not a primary road. It's a road that gets people in and out from their home to their work and back again. It doesn't take you to retail stores or any place particular. So I'm having trouble understanding why we need to do this. Why does this road now that seems to work fine for the people that live there, why does it have to be wider? If you look at Chesterfield Crosswicks Road and you run a tape measure across that road is 20 foot wide right now. So it's 1 foot wider than Marjoram Road. And I would consider the Chesterfield Crosswicks Road a primary road. We have traffic on our road, but not like that road. So I would like to know, as well as a lot of the people behind me, why we're doing this. Why is this project slated to go forward? It provides a lot of concerns. It provides concerns about safety, speed, noise, and there's environmental issues that go along with this. My concern is the speed and the noise. A lot of our homes are very close to the road. We're taking this road now that's 19 and making it 28. We're adding 3 feet of shoulder. It's moving back into our front yards. My house, my bedroom faces the road. My kitchen faces the road. So we're going to be faced with listening to additional noise that right now you really don't hear. But bring everything closer, and it's going to be a problem. And again, I don't understand why. No one could give me a good reason that we're doing this other than the fact that we're getting money from the state to do it. And because of those funds, we have to take and make this road fit their requirements. Well, what if the residents of the road don't want it to fit the requirements? What if they don't want it paved? What if they don't want it wider? I put together a petition and I went door to door. We have 17 households on Marjoram Road and spoke to the people. And the people, with the exception of 2 households, do not want this project to go forward. I provided the council members and the mayor a packet that has that petition in it with the names. And also in that packet, there are documents and research papers about the width of roads and the collateral damage that they incur as they get wider.
Your comments have to be limited to 3 minutes. We did get the package, and you'll get another opportunity in the second public session to speak. So
I'm sorry.
your comments need to be limited to 3 minutes. You're over that time.
So
Is really important.
Mayor, I have so much more to say. Am I really finished?
You can take an additional minute, but please, we need to.
Okay. So what do you suggest I do at this point? I'm a newbie. I'm new to this.
Yeah.
Actually, it's very uncomfortable to stand here in front of you people. I'm not a great public speaker, but I love where I live and I'm passionate about this and I want to try to make my
I
point.
can assure you that we're going to address this topic. So we'll be talking more about it today. So you can come back in the second session and
Tonight?
yeah, today.
So take my seat and I can come back up. Okay, so let's leave it then at the petition. And when I come back, I want to talk about the environmental concerns and some of the other things that go along with this.
Sounds
Okay?
good. Thank you.
The packets I gave out, everybody get one? Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Please.
Yeah.
No.
It says no, and I
Why don't we read the public comments rules so that way everybody will be clear? The committee welcomes participation of interested organizations and individuals during regular and special meetings. However, in order to conduct the business of the township in the most productive manner possible, meeting attendees will be given 3 minutes, all inclusive, to provide public comments without comment or question from the committee for the designated public portion of the meeting. There may be no transference of a speaker's time to other attendees. Please stand at the appropriate time, state your name and address for the record. Anybody else? Is anybody online?
no one's speaking.
Can I have a motion to close public comments?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
I would say just to maybe put the minds at ease of some of the people who have spoken and were planning to speak. I think that this panel is going to have questions about this tonight, and we're probably going to get into a lot of the things I think that you wanted to get into. And like the mayor said, you'll have an opportunity to speak again, but I have a feeling that we're going to have a discussion and ask a lot of the questions that you wanted to ask.
Of the engineer.
Of the yeah.
Report.
Yeah.
Thank you. Moving on to section 6 for resolutions. Resolution 2025-5-2, recognizing Arbor Day celebration. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And also, if anybody would like to speak about what we did on Arbor Day, do we have any how many trees we planted, or how did we celebrate Arbor Day? Do we have anything there from the administrator or anybody on the committee?
At the Environmental Commission, we hosted a tree giveaway. It was very, very successful. The state actually stopped their giveaway program, so we were not giving away state trees. We had Environmental Commission members who provided their own trees from their own properties to residents who were interested. It was hugely successful. We are in talks about what to do for next year. If anybody has any ideas, we would love to hear them. And then we also planted a tree on the township property.
Thank you. Moving on, Resolution 2025-5-3, acknowledging the establishment and continued commitment of the Chesterfield Township Green Team. Can I have a motion to approve? All in favor? Aye.
I did want to add a quick thing here. We did already send out information about the green team to residents, asking them to volunteer in the green team. So we have already gotten about 7-8 responses, mostly from high school volunteers, but we welcome all the support and that we can get from folks who want to volunteer. So we plan on having an interest meeting in a few days, and we'll keep everyone posted about the green team interest meeting.
I'm wondering if we should table this resolution until after that meeting, because we're just going to have to go back and add those members, or it does say other members.
I added it there at
added
the
that,
end as a
yeah.
catch-all,
Added that.
so, because we'll typically redo this every, we can just do it every January, and whoever we have as those members, we can add
Okay,
on.
that's fine. I just know that in the past, we had an issue because it was, the membership was totally different than what was in the resolution, and I don't want to see that happen again, but as long as we're good, okay.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 2025-5-4, authorizing renewal of contract with Mansfield Township Ambulance Corps for emergency medical services. Do you want to give us a little bit of a summary there?
Sure, Mayor. In 2024, the township entered into a 5-year agreement with the Mansfield Township Ambulance Corps. They're housed right across the street here. There are 3 different legs of the contract based on the increases in payments. We are completing our first, which was $195,000 for June of 24 through May of 25. The next leg is a 2-year portion of a total of $440,000, which is $220,000 per year. That's the section that we're entering into now. This resolution tonight approves of that contract for those 2 years. In another 2 years, there will be another leg where it's a $480,000 2-year agreement. Again, $240,000 per year. That would be approved at that time. So this is just part 2 of a 3-section contract that we're approving tonight.
Yep, and I would like to just add that this is extremely beneficial for our town. Even though it's not technically a shared service, we are sharing the services by a third-party provider between multiple towns, which are extremely beneficial for Chesterfield. So this is a great thing for us. So I would like to have a motion to approve Resolution 2025-5-4. Sorry.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 2025-5-5, authorizing the acceptance of credit card and electronic fund transfer payments for the payment of certain township services and related fees and the charging of transaction fees. I know this is a long time coming. Can you speak a little bit to this as well for the
Sure, Mayor.
benefit?
Approximately a year ago, the township brought in a program called GovPilot, and that was spearheaded by our construction department. And one of the aspects and benefits of that program is that we can do online construction permits and also accept online payments with credit cards or e-checks. This resolution is required by statute that the town publicly announces and approves that those electronic payments are going to be utilized by the township. This is basically a formal step that has to be taken by the town before we can start that process.
And I just want to make clear that this does not mean that electronic payments are the exclusive method of payment. So, because there is a significant convenience fee, but residents still have the option of paying by check or cash as they always have and not paying the convenience fee.
And not only construction permits will be involved, but we'll also be doing, I believe there's about 8 other examples of different payments that will be available if someone wants to make those online. So getting into the
And
space age here.
20th century.
Yeah,
And at
credit
21st.
cards. It's a convenience. People can use it if they choose.
And not pay the,
No, you still have to.
at the counter, okay.
But right now, we don't have any method for processing card payments if somebody comes in.
I just want to make clear that we're adding an option. We're not
Mhm.
limiting them. We're not limiting
And in that regard, we intend to purchase, it's an option that we would like to exercise, is to buy terminals to be placed in the building on the outside of the counter so people can use their cards there. That would be the only expense that we would incur. That's our option. We're not required to do that.
Good, thank you.
Thank you for that. I think this is going to be extremely advantageous to our town. It gives one other option for our residents, and I think this is a great thing. Can I have a motion to approve resolution 2025-5-5?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on, resolution 2025-5-6, authorizing an award of contract to Auto Agent Data Solutions LLC, providing equipment, technology, and services to allows residents to pay certain township taxes and fees through the use of credit cards at zero cost to the township. So this is, I think, very much related to the previous one, right?
Yes, this is a resolution authorizing a contract with the vendor that provides the service.
Perfect. Can I have a motion to approve 2025-5-6?
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Moving on, resolution 2025-5-7, authorizing submission of Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse Fiscal Grant Cycle July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. Can I have a motion to approve 2025-5-7?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Moving on to section 7, can I have a motion to approve the bill list?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to section 8, reports and discussions. So in this, we first have the NJ dot fiscal year 2026 state aid program grants.
It's just an FYI. We just got,
This
yeah.
is fiscal year 2026 municipal aid grant program that was announced a little while back. The grants are due July 1st, 2025. It's the annual road grant that we typically apply for. We've been fortunate enough to get a grant in most recent years. The last one was Hogback Road Phase 1. You recall we applied for Hogback, the whole length there, north of Ward Avenue. But we got, I don't have the amount here that we applied for, but we got $148,000 for that. So there is a decent amount of Hogback Road left. I think the intent was to apply for the rest of Hogback as part of this fiscal year 2026.
Okay, so we can get the whole Hallback Road. Okay, if we get that. Thank you. And moving on to the next big item that we have today is the capital budget. And I know, Troy, there are a couple of things that are urgent on there. So if you can review the capital budget and give us an overview of that, that will be great.
Yes, so for this year, as we've discussed, the street sweeper obviously is on there and the hook truck, two big
Troy,
ticket
can you
items.
pull that over
Yeah,
closer to you,
Mike,
please?
Grant.
Two big ticket items is the street sweeper and the hook truck. And then there's 3 items on there for sewer. Other than that, it's obviously a continuation of what we need to do in the future. There's plans set in place, or a guideline, I guess you would say, of equipment. One of the first things I did when I got here 6 years ago was review all the equipment and the needs of the Public Works Department at that point. We followed that pretty good through the first 5 years, and now we're into the second phase of that. And this is just equipment that we need to move forward and do our job for the residents of this community.
So do we have that report here?
I didn't see anything on that. I was just told to put the capital budget on there, but I did
Do you
not.
have a report that you want to share with the township? Because we don't have it here in front of us.
A report of what?
Of the expenditure this year for the 3 or 4 items that you're requesting.
The only thing I have is what I've given you was the memo regarding all that previous. That
That was prior
It's
to
November.
the budget?
Yeah.
That you submitted prior to budget. All right, I apologize. I
Okay.
thought there was something new.
Mayor, I can summarize,
Yeah.
if I may.
Please,
Back
sir.
in November, after a discussion that the committee had about capital items, basically requested by Troy, I spoke with him and basically asked him to prioritize. We had his request for a 3-year period. He took that list and whittled it down and came up with the items that he felt were really necessary within the next year. And so we are at that point where we need to make those decisions. In speaking to Troy today, he's had these items on the list for 2 or 3 years. The last 2 years, there's been no action taken at all to purchase any of these. So he prioritized basically 3 items through the sewer budget: a backhoe, a mason dump, and a pickup truck. And through the public works, he identified a street sweeper, which we had a demonstration a few weeks ago. The committee woman was there with me, and also for a hook truck and dumpsters for our collection. Those items, I can tell you, just looking at the street sweeper, the prices have changed. We know they're all going up dramatically. Troy had originally identified a value of about 300,000.
350,
Yeah, 3. Well, this one has 3,
300.
and our latest quote was 423,000. So waiting is just getting more expensive. So that's why we have this here before you tonight. If we can get an approval, maybe by motion, to move ahead, we can then work on the financing for these and get solid prices. There's got to have to be some work done. Hopefully, they're all available by state contract or some other co-op.
Thank you for that. I think we certainly want to approve at least the immediate need that we have is for the street sweeper, because that we need to go in for a letter of intent on that. What I would like to see is the line items
Yes.
and an estimate amount for us to approve all the items. At least I am in favor of those, but I think the township committee would like to see that before we approve all the others as well. So I think the one that's urgent today is your street sweeper, right?
Absolutely. They all are in conjunction.
Yeah, but,
You know,
Yeah, I would normally would like to see at least the line items with
Yeah,
the
yeah, these-
estimates, and I don't have that in front of me.
These numbers are, I'm pretty confident they're all going to go up.
they're all, the street sweeper is about where it's going to be. I did talk to Greg.
I mean,
our
compared to the
contact.
list.
Oh, compared to the list? Absolutely, yeah. And as far as the mason dump and the pickup truck, the state contract pricing ended about 2 weeks ago. So now they're in the portion where they don't have a current price. So if I ask them for a quote, they really can't even give me a quote on the equipment as of yet. That process takes another month or so. There's other vendors that we may be able to get prices from, which I'll have to reach out to. But usually when you go outside of, let's say, Ford, that's where the state contract is. But if you go to another vendor, you're going to get a more expensive price because you're not getting it from that manufacturer.
Understand that. So for today, then, I don't know what the committee feels, but we certainly should go ahead and approve the street sweeper, and at least with the intent to move ahead.
We put that in the budget, or how are we gonna pay for it? That
That's
it
to
was
be
in the budget.
determined.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not voting yes or no till I get an idea of how.
It is not paid for from the budget, right?
No, so
No, these
It's a
items-
capital loss.
I thought we,
What's that?
yeah, I
put half in
couldn't
the budget?
remember how much.
No, there's a down payment in the budget. If it's going to be financed or capital, you have to have a down payment.
I thought we put like $150,000 in the budget for it. Is that not correct?
It's not for flat out purchases.
No.
You do have money in the budget. For example, the chief has a police vehicle. That's budgeted for
Yeah,
in your
no.
municipal budget. These are capital items. These are funded separately. Whether it's money that you have in reserves for the sewer utility, that may be an option for those items.
Yeah, I think it
Sewer.
is.
But for these others, these would be financed in some way. I don't think we're going to come up with $500,000 in cash.
No way.
No, and it's not part of the budget in any case. It has to be
No,
a
I
capital.
know,
We have to
but that's
bond
what
for
I
these.
wanted to know what we're gonna, how we're gonna finance it.
My understanding is that's something that Wendy will come and speak to us once she knows the total capital amount that we have to spend. But today we're not doing that. Today, all we are doing is approving that we want to buy the street sweeper, and that's the estimated range of that is going to be around $400,000. That's all we are doing. And then the remaining line items, once that we see those remaining line items and we know the total budget, capital budget for this year, that's when Wendy will come and she will explain to us how she plans to bond for those or how it will be. But she'll give you a decision on how it will be bonded. That's the CFO's prerogative.
Troy, just so I make sure we're looking at this from every angle, because it is a lot of money. Let's what's the alternative? So let's say you can't get the approval of the township committee for the street sweeper. And I don't mean today. I mean you can't get it ever.
Absolutely.
What happens instead?
And we increase our operating budget upwards of $50,000 to $100,000 next year to subcontract for just street sweeping alone. So last year or the year before, I did a comparison. If we bought the street sweeper opposed to outsourcing, outsourcing will cost the township a lot of money. It's about $2,300 a day. The analysis I did, you're going to have to street sweep our town, just our roadways, about 10 to 15 days, and that has to be done 3 times annually. So if we have to pay that out, you're looking at upwards of $60,000 a year just to pay a subcontractor, and then over time you stretch that out. You're going to pay the $400,000, whether it's you're paying it to yourself and doing it yourself, or you're paying it to somebody else.
And what's the life expectancy?
Life expectancy of the new machines are about 15 years. So that's why you bond them as well, is because anything over 5 years or $5,000, Wendy bonds out that money. So you're looking at about 15 years.
So conservatively, that's 15 years times $60,000, and that's assuming it
Exactly.
doesn't go up. Which
Exactly. And it's going to go up every year.
Okay.
And we
Thank you.
can recoup some of the costs by entering into
You
shared
could possibly
services.
do a shared service with other communities. As you all know, we're looking to fill a few more positions. We've actually had some applicants. So if we can fill those positions, we may be able to get into a shared service agreement with other communities where they pay us to sweep their roads, which would then go into a fund that would actually reduce the cost of the machine, reduce the cost of the maintenance, and just help us. It would benefit us.
And just to clarify for the public, this isn't us sitting up here deciding all of a sudden we want to start sweeping the streets.
Absolutely not.
This is a new state mandate that says that we have to sweep our streets several times a year, and we're left dealing to find the most cost-effective way to do so.
This is only one portion of stormwater that we're stuck with.
So, yeah, I'll make a motion that we go forward with the intention to purchase.
I wouldn't handle it, in my opinion, as like a formal
Oh,
authorization.
okay.
But you guys can, if you want to just make sure you have a consensus or make a motion to go forward. I want to make sure we have the availability of the funds and the paperwork's in place for you to do a formal
Right.
vote the next meeting.
That
Like, I don't want to just do it like off the cuff personally.
Okay.
I just,
No, that's fine.
especially a big purchase like this, that I don't want something to come back and say, well, you did it the wrong way.
And I did talk to the vendor. They asked us for a letter of intent, basically, and that's what I told you guys in the last meeting. I did speak with him. He said the letter of intent, they don't hold it as a contract. He said, it guarantees us a spot. With the market the way it is right now, if they pull a machine in for Chesterfield and for some reason we cannot purchase it, they will be able to unload it. So
Okay.
it's not going to be an issue for us where we're bound to a contract.
All right, then
We get a letter of intent to review.
you could
and
do a
go
motion on
ahead
that,
with the next
That's
meeting.
what
move forward with the intent, then the letter of
So
intent.
can we do a motion to move forward with the letter of intent
Yes.
for the street sweeper?
You could do that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And we will see the remaining items
Yeah,
in the next meeting.
yes, I'll get them for you.
Okay. Moving on to the Harvest Festival. So Rachel, you put that in, I think.
Or, at the request of the Township Committee, I was asked to look into ways to offset the cost of the Harvest Festival, which I gave you a memo. I sent a memo to you a couple weeks ago on that. The cost of the festival is approximately $19,000 a year. The township budgets every year $10,000 for it, and last year we raised $9,000 in sponsorship. So that paid for the event. We also would have many donated items such as mums, pumpkins, hay bales, volunteer T-shirts, etc. One option that I suggested to offset the cost would be to charge the vendors. I'm suggesting charging all vendors $50, food trucks $100, and no fee for the nonprofits, which are like the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. If we were to do that based on the vendors that we had from last year, in those different categories, we could raise an extra $4,000.
Yes.
So you're saying $100 for the vendors, sorry, $100 for the food trucks, $50 for the vendors, and nothing for the nonprofits. And that'll bring us approximately $4,000.
That's only if we were to get exactly what we had last year. I based that $4,000 off of, and I think I put it in the memo to you. Last year we had 66 regular vendors. Some of those were food vendors, but not food trucks. 7 food trucks and 36 nonprofit vendors.
Doesn't include the sponsors, right?
And then additionally, we raised, that has nothing to, and we're still going to go out for sponsorships. Last year, we raised $9,000. That was the most that we've ever raised, and that's not guaranteed.
So one of the things that comes to my mind is, we can certainly go up in our sponsorship. I know we have not been reaching out to all the vendors in our town. So if we reach out to all the vendors and businesses in our town, including, I specifically would like to include the ones who are building and constructing the warehouse and others as well. Can we raise?
I'm sorry. I just gave a list to George. It was a pretty lengthy list of the vendors that, or the sponsors. I went over it with Glenn. So if you'd like, I can share that with all of you to add.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, that'll be, because I want to encourage the vendors to come. And, today there are a lot of vendors coming because it's free and it just brings in more participants and more residents to come out, enjoy the food in the food trucks and with the vendors. I want to avoid charging a fee if I can get that money from the sponsors. So that's my thinking on this. I don't know.
I would say we could try maybe doing a modest fee, charge them a modest fee, maybe not 50, but 25 or $30, which I'm sure they can easily afford. The food trucks also do, they do good business. It's a well-attended event.
Do we have a sense of what what the food trucks are doing in revenue at that event? Is there any way to
All I know is
ballpark that?
everyone is doing very well. I'm literally taking in vendors the day of. They're constantly coming. Every year we get more and more vendors. We're trying to,
Yeah.
we only have so many spots under the tents.
Yeah.
We probably have the same amount of vendors that are not under the tents that are under the tents. So every year we get more and more. Everybody's very happy. They're all doing very well. Another option would be, which I mentioned to George, if you don't want to charge the vendors, we could do away with the rides. The rides cost $8,000. So that's an option. Or you could do a wristband and charge like $20.
I hate to put
A
that on the
kid.
families. I'd rather put the money, the charge onto the vendors. Did you, I don't want to say you should have, I'm just asking, like, do we have an idea of what surrounding communities for their days, what they charge vendors like
This is
Allentown?
very comparable.
So that's
if not
comparable.
on the
So
lower
I think we
side.
should go with what's comparable. I think our Harvest Fest has grown to the point where I think we we are more or less the same size as some of these surrounding communities. And if they're charging 50 for their vendors, I think we should charge 50. I really hate to charge families. And if we do, I would certainly say more like $5 than 20. But even that, I'd rather not go in that direction. I'd rather go into the direction of charging the vendors the $50. I mean, we can do it this year, and if it seems like it really cuts down on the number of vendors, we can lower it next year. But if that's what other communities are charging, then they're probably used to paying for that amount, $50. So
I agree.
Sorry.
I agree. And Rachel, I think you've done a great job getting sponsors. I know how much work you put into it. I think the missing piece of this conversation is that if the vendors aren't paying it, our taxpayers are paying it.
yeah,
I know we approve in our budget every year. I think it's $10,000. You can correct me if I'm wrong. That's coming from our taxpayers. So I think it makes sense for the vendors who are benefiting financially from the Harvest Fest for them to be paying it, not our residents.
I agree. I think long term, I'd like to cut more and more back on what we're spending on the Harvest Festival and try and make it, which was, I think, when the Harvest Festival started, was our long term goal, was to make it self. And I think maybe this year we can actually get a sense of how many kids ride the rides and whether, whether we either do away with them or cut back, if that would be a big game changer for a lot of families, which I think we could maybe think about that as we're looking at the day. Does that seem to be something that's very, very popular, or is that something we could cut out? Because it is the biggest expense, no?
That and the
I-
tents.
I did check
Tense,
with
but-
someone I know that runs similar events. Where flea markets, a vendor table is $95. Food trucks are $250.
See, so that we're significantly less than
Yes.
that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I might be supportive of charging the food trucks a little bit more even. Because I mean, like, every dollar more that they pay is a dollar less that our taxpayers have to pay. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess I kind of leave it to your discretion, Rachel, what you think the appetite is of the food truck vendors, if they're making enough to spend $250. And I know we don't have the number, but I guess you have a better sense of what
I
that
definitely
dynamic
don't
is.
think it should be less than this,
Yeah,
because then it's almost like not worth our time collecting that money.
yeah, makes sense.
It's not going to affect the budget.
Makes
I
sense.
think we should start with this and then look at it again for next year. We can always raise the fees. Food trucks.
Yeah,
or the
and
next-
look, I'm not against charging them. My point is, are we making sure we are tapping in the right amount of sponsorship? And the reason I bring this up is I know that there was an intent in the past by Active Acquisition or one of the vendors to pay a lot more money to the township to host the Harvest Fest. So have we tried that, and have we seen if there is an interest on their part to be kind of the primary sponsor or whatever you might want to call it, to pay in a significantly larger amount towards the Harvest Fest?
They donate every year a certain amount. They're always a platinum member. And they always bring somebody, they bring a famous person to come out. But I think that would be up to the township committee or the administrator to reach out to Active Acquisitions. I don't know if I'd feel so comfortable asking them to cover it.
Yeah.
It's not really for me to do.
I'm also not sure I'm comfortable kind of committing to any sponsor like in that, like disproportionately to one sponsor over all the others. Like I like that everyone is, there's like different tiers. I don't want to turn this into, and this it's not specific to Active Acquisitions. I don't want to turn it into any corporate. It's not a corporate event right now, and I don't want it to turn into one. So I don't know. I just think we should be careful about how we go about that.
I agree with you, Matt. I like the way it's done now. I also think, though, that I know that, for example, there were a few sponsors at the Green Fair that were not from Chesterfield. So if you send us that list, we can, like, I know Saba brought in some, we can reach out to them and say, who did you get that came? Because I know I talked to a couple of people at the Green Fair that were not from Chesterfield that were sponsoring different events at the Green
Good
Fair.
Energy was really keen on
Yes, yes.
sponsoring. Yes.
So I think maybe if you give us that list, we can kind of cross-reference and maybe, have you reach out to some other, or have whoever, Sabre, whoever got those sponsors, and ask them if they'd be willing to do some sponsorship of the Green, which they probably would. If they did the Green Fair, they might be willing to do the Harvest Festival.
I wonder if some social media outreach too, just to let our residents know that this is an opportunity for them to advertise their businesses or Because I just don't think most people know that this opportunity exists. So I think maybe a little social media blast might get the word out and bring in additional donation.
Okay, so
Well, thanks again for all your work on this,
Yeah,
Rachel.
thank
Yeah,
you,
thank you,
Rachel.
Rachel.
so
I did not.
do you need anything from us today then?
I guess just an approval, if that's okay to chart, because I do have to start promoting it right now and reaching out to the vendors. So I would just need to know if that's okay to charge the vendors.
I think the vendors and the food trucks, yeah.
Yeah.
$50 and $100, yes. Okay, moving on to the reports from the administration. I think the first most important one we want to do is certainly, I'm going to second my anything from the mayor. I want to go to item number C first and want to go to Joe first. Is that okay with everybody? Because we would like to understand from Joe the township engineer's report, and I'll have him also speak to the Marjoram Road. So, Joe, if you want to brief us and provide us the information that you have collected so far and an update on the Marjoram Road.
I'll just go through my
Prepaid.
report, margin rooms on that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
The first item on my report is the stormwater compliance, the annual report that's due May 1st every year. For 2024 was due this year. We submitted that on April 29th. We were in compliance. There was just one section that we deferred until the end of this year to complete the entire stormwater map, because there's some additional items that they require now that weren't really clear in the beginning of when they set the standard for the maps. So we're finishing up the maps. It shouldn't be a big deal, but we are compliant. We continue to be compliant. Item 2 is Marjoram Road. That's 24 municipal aid grant. We received $283,000 plus or minus for that project. The current status of it is it was approved by DOT to go out to bid. We advertised it. Bids are due on May 13th. With respect to public comment and the roadway, we submitted for 11-foot wide road lanes, which is what the DOT standard is. And the shoulders, we increased to 3 feet to provide some safety for pedestrians and bikes, since we couldn't facilitate a bike lane. That was the basis for the design. So DOT likely wouldn't approve a lane width that's less than 11 feet. That's the standard. Every road we've done under the DOT program has been a minimum of 11 feet. So that's where the design basis, at least for the lane width, comes from.
So Joe, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Troy, which is, okay, so let's say you submitted a plan that the DOT would not approve. What would that mean for Marjoram Road?
So they would require us to amend it. They wouldn't approve it for bidding. They would require amendments to it.
Would that mean that it could not be done, or it could not be done with their funds?
Could not be done with their funding.
Okay. Which is remind me what that number is.
$283,000 plus or minus.
Okay. And remind me, if you could, what was the purpose of initiating that project to begin with? Why were we looking at Marjoram Road to begin with?
It was just next up on the list as roads. That was we talked about it with, I think, Tom at the time. I don't know if I think Tom was still here.
Yeah.
So we typically every year when the grant is announced, we decide on which road to pave, and that road became pretty much the next road up. And Roberts applied for that. We were talking about it the year before, but the application Roberts did was for Marjoram. It was
I can interject there
Yeah,
too.
go
There
ahead.
was a lot of conversation and meetings with residents that walked that road that showed safety concerns with the road being so narrow. That road does have a lot of foot traffic. It was in a road that we deemed in need of reconstruction. It has failures along with stormwater issues. There was a lot of conversation about just pedestrians alone and dual traffic on that roadway. The roadway is only about 18 foot wide. And if you have 2 full-size vehicles on that road opposing, you're touching mirrors or somebody's going off the roadway. So that's how that all sparked up, along with, again, our road survey that we do. Joe's done a survey before I got here. what roads are in need of repair and grades them. So Marjoram Road was on that list and very high up on that list.
So take me like 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. So let's say we don't comply with DOT standards, they withdraw the funding, and we just don't touch Marjoram Road. We leave it as it is. What does it look like? What does it look like 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road?
Well, there's certain portions of it that would last longer than others. It's degrading in various areas, potholes, and the surface course is delaminating from the asphalt below. So you have like where you have like patches where say 2-inch thick kind of just pops out. That's what starts the potholes. It would just continue to degrade.
And then the edge of the roadway, when you pass a vehicle on that roadway, if you drive down there, there's literal ruts in the grass, vehicles passing. You're actually deteriorating the edge of the roadway. That'll continue. There's ditches on that road, and somebody will end up in a ditch. There's trees right next to the roadway. There's a lot of safety concerns on that road.
What is it? There's no shoulder
Currently, no.
No.
currently.
No, it varies from, I think the narrowest point is about 16 or 17 feet, and then it goes to about 19. Maybe there's a couple areas
Up
around
like
20, but as you get
Davenport's
closer
up
to the
20.
circle, it gets wide.
And that was the other thing too, with the discussion about the possible roundabout coming in on Old York Road and Chesterfield Crosswicks. That Marjoram Road is the fourth leg of that circle. So you have a roundabout with 3 legs that are county roads and 1 leg that is township road. And then it would kind of mirror the same size and style.
So in other words, so I just want to be clear. Do you need to widen the road to meet the DOT standards to repair it or to just to pave it? Or
So the minimum treatment we can do would be widen the road to 22 feet to use DOT money because we have to provide 11-foot.
right.
The shoulders, we have some ability to decide on what widths we would want for that, but having a lane edge at the edge of paving is a safety issue.
It's a safety issue.
And that was a discussion that the committee had.
Yes.
I believe that sparked, let's put a bike lane in. And we tried to put a bike lane in, but that was what, 5 foot we would need on either side.
You need a
for bike.
5-foot plus shoulder
5 foot
on the
plus
opposite
shoulder.
side.
So we didn't have the room for that. We opted to downsize that to a 3 foot, which gives pedestrians, walking room and vehicles passing room.
But what this road you're saying is requiring is more than just repaving. It actually has structural issues that need to be
yeah.
And I've walked on it, I've cycled that road, so I can really tell you it's in bad shape. At some places, really bad. And when you walk, there's absolutely no shoulder. So if the vehicle coming in the opposite direction or even in the direction that you're walking can easily bump you off. So it is a narrow road. There's no doubt about that.
So I'm going to turn my next questions then to the chief, because I assume that what the residents are saying is probably correct, that a newly paved, newly widened road will cause motor vehicles to drive faster. So let's say that is what happens, chief. Is the police department able to enact measures at that point to mitigate the risks?
Well, you're assuming that will happen.
I am assuming for the sake of this discussion, yeah.
But, obviously we can be out there and enforce just like any other area. Not a problem. We can also utilize some equipment we have in terms of just data capture and see what speeds we're getting, what meetings we're getting. Engineer equipment like that as well. So that approach as well.
I assume you've seen something along these lines where a road is newly widened, newly paved in Chesterfield?
I've had experience with roads widened, but certainly we have paving projects, whether it's a township road or a county road. Those happen every year. Chesterfield Crossway, Main Street, Bordentown Crossway, 28, just in the last 2 years. Sykesville Road.
What's been the experience there? Do the motor vehicles start speeding where they,
I've heard the same concerns pre work that this road is going to become a drag strip. We're concerned that it's going to be increased speed. I've heard those concerns before the work. We don't have any evidence to show that that's really been the case post work. So I understand the concern. I just don't know if that's in the end the reality.
And the only way we'd know would be to do a traffic study after the road is done, because
Yeah.
you can't, to do a traffic study now is,
You could do one now and you could do one later.
yeah, you could
Uh,
do a comparison, but you can't, you wouldn't know until it's actually in place what.
I don't know if you have equipment that is more road lay on the road.
We have both types now.
Okay.
There's infrared types and there's
Ours
heat
isn't.
types.
Yeah, ours isn't on the road. Ours is mounted, which sometimes there are effects from weather, et cetera. I don't know that the roadway ones have the same.
Well, the tubes can get dislodged, and that can
Oh.
ruin it. But we also have like an infrared one. But as long as we use the same equipment before and after,
Right.
then the results would be comparable. I would think there is not historic. I don't have a historic traffic count for that road. If you have anything that you've done already, if not, we can certainly do that before any type of construction happens to get a baseline to
Mhm.
see.
probably a good idea.
But like Denise said, the road's paved in the post-construction, so you're not going to take the road back out if you find people do
No.
speed. You're just going to have to increase enforcement.
But then
Right.
it's an enforcement issue.
Yeah.
Right.
And one other thing, can we add something like rumble strips or something on the road to make sure that people don't speed, or we cannot do that?
My feeling on the rumble strips is that it actually presents more of a danger because people will go over them at speed. They won't necessarily slow down for them.
And don't they add to noise?
They'll definitely add to noise. Yeah.
I also worry about emergency services, slowing down, having to slow down on.
For a rumble strip.
Yeah.
I think if one of the residents' biggest concern is noise, I don't want to add anything that would increase the noise level.
Right.
Yeah, the road, the traveled way of the road generally will be in the same location, right? Will it increase in the area where it's 16 feet? It'll go to 22 feet, but more or less the center line is going to be the center line. So the cars will generally be traveling the same area. Now, if there's specific properties that have shrubbery along the frontage that's in the right of way right now that needs to be moved or relocated, depending on our pricing, we may be able to add some landscaping back to replace that, or mitigate it in some other way. We won't know until we have pricing and a contractor on board. And the other thing is, if there are specific concerns, Troy and I did talk about having a couple open houses to look at plans where people can come in and look at them. We can discuss specific concerns to properties related to things like that. All the mailboxes that have to be moved back will be done by the contractor as part of the contract. Any landscape beds that are there, all that will be adjusted in kind by the contractor.
I would like to hear anybody that's going to make a public comment, if that would be something that you'd like us to set up, to have Troy and Joe set aside an evening or 2 evenings that you could come in with your own specific issues. Okay, so I think we should go ahead
Certainly
and
should
do
do
that.
doing that. Yeah.
We can get a list from Glenn of the addresses and either send that out, put it on the website. We initially talked about potentially doing it 6 o'clock the night of the meeting and just being from like 6 to 7 before a meeting, since we'll be here anyway, but we can put that notice out to everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's great.
That'll be great. Thank you. Any
Thanks,
other?
Joe. Thanks, Troy.
Thank you very much.
Chief. Appreciate that.
Any other questions regarding Marjoram Road before Joe moves on to the next topic? We'll open up for the public comments later, but thank you, Joe. You can go on to your next.
Okay, so item 4 on there is the 2026 grant that we talked about. So you'll see a resolution in either the next meeting or the meeting after, prior to that, for support to submit that grant application. Item 5 is the Fenton Lane parking lot, and the item 6 is the walking path. Both have the same contractor. So I spoke to him this week. He was going to meet us the beginning of next week just to go through the rest of the scope of work, which is paving the path around the park. So we'll meet the beginning, like a pre-construction meeting, just to get ramped back up, and then he's going to give us a schedule. It's likely to be early June when they're going to pave that. So That should be done relatively soon. Item number 7. So we used to get this grant. I think it stopped in 23. But this is the Municipal Parks Development Grant was the funding before the current recreation grants. What's back? From what I understand, there's been $5 million allotted into this fund for recreation grants again. So we have the ability to submit for another recreation project that's due the end of June. And similar to the road grant, Troy, George, and I had spoken about reapplying for the rest of the path in Fenton Lane that we did not get the local rec improvement grant that we just applied for. Just to finish the path work in that park, which would get you from Old York Village across Fenton Lane all the way up to the rec building and the parking lot in Fenton Lane Park. Then the entire path would be complete. So if you're on board for that, that's what we would apply for.
We were unfortunate in the first one because the state decided to give everybody the money for wherever they had cut funding for the school. So
Yeah,
nobody got
a lot of
anything.
it
So
schools, yeah.
yeah, let's try again, and that will be great if we can get a walking path.
It's trying to get in touch with the contractor for the gazebo today, but I didn't get a call back in time for the meeting for a date for the gazebo delivery. So I understand it's been ordered. So hopefully, even though we don't have a date, it's still in the process of its lead time, so it shouldn't be long. And then at the generators at pump stations 1 and 2, that work has started. I believe Reckless Town was first. Yeah, so it's been set, it's installed. They'll do the testing and get it up and running. I guess we're under temporary power at this point. So that should wrap up hopefully this month, both generators.
That would
be
be
good.
nice.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
That's
Long,
been a
2+
long
years.
time,
Long.
generators.
But that's all I have for tonight for a report.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
I did not have anything other than talking about the Margam Road, and I know there is. Yeah, let's go back to. Yeah, going back to the township committee, and then I'll go to George. Anybody in the township committee? Did we have anything?
Yeah, I did have a couple of things to say. First and foremost, I wanted to say thank you to all the vendors, residents, and volunteers who showed up at the Green Fair on behalf of the Green Fair Planning Committee. I want to say a huge, thank you to all of the residents who came despite the weather. I think we had a great turnout and a great event. And we hope to have an even bigger event next year. And also congratulations to all the contest winners, the raffle contest and other contest winners. So I think we had a great event. And secondly, I did want to add a note about what we discussed at the Shade Tree Advisory Board meeting last time. A couple of comments. There was an observation made by one of the Shade Tree Advisory Board member, Mr. Dan Brown, who's here actually in the audience. He did point out that some of the, I guess, majority of the trees in the development, they are not being pruned and trimmed properly. So he is more than happy to lend his expertise and show how to do it the right way to the public works. So that was one of the comments, and I wanted to make sure I pass it on to the committee.
Yeah, I did discuss that with George, and Troy are certainly going to be discussing that. We do want to make sure that our trees are properly trimmed, because not trimming them properly does damage those trees, the life of the trees, and it can cause a number of issues like infestation and things like that. So we did discuss. I remembered one topic. Sorry about that, and this was relating to the signs on the Chesterfield Community Garden. I believe they're almost ready for their inauguration, and they just need to put out the signs. I do not believe it requires any township committee approval. I just wanted to confirm that, because they are going to hang those signs. They are going to be different sizes. One will be obviously the name of the garden, and the others will be small signs from the sponsors. I know Roseanne has the details if you need to, but I don't think it requires any approval. To the best of our knowledge, that should be allowed.
Yeah.
I don't believe they need zoning or planning board, but I think your approval would be a good
I
thing.
mean, it's your property.
It's our property.
It's a property. Yeah. So then I would like to make sure that we allow for those signs. Anybody in the township committee has any objections to the signs that will go up there?
I just want to have an idea of the size of them.
Yeah, I think Roseanne will speak to that. She has all the different sizes for, and the big sign for the community garden as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have that, or we could get it from you and then discuss it at the next meeting? I don't know how quickly you want to put the signs up. I'm cracking you up, I see here.
Denise, oh, yeah, you'd have to come up if.
I just love to know as long as we're talking about it, I'd love to know the content of the signs as well.
Yeah.
We're approving. I just like to know what, who's on it and what it says and
Sure.
roughly.
Roseanne Greenberg, 17 Iron Bridge Road, Chesterfield Community Garden team member. We're in the process now of the last part of construction would be getting signage. We were thinking we'd like to get aluminum signs that we can attach to the deer fencing so we don't have to put any posts in. We want to make it where we'll have a header sign which would say Chesterfield Community Garden. We're figuring a foot high or maybe a foot and a half by 6 feet or maybe 8. It depends how the lettering would fit. That would look correct. That would be in proportion. That would be our largest sign, and that would be that you could see somewhat from a distance. The other signs would be a lot smaller. They would be, we're looking at like a 12 by 24, where we want to have the wording on it. A special thank you to all of the sponsors that made the Chesterfield Community Garden possible. And then we want to have smaller signs for the different businesses that contributed, like Joe Max. They're the ones who gave the initial 25,000 to get us going. They were our main fund source. And that would be about a 19 by 24 inch. And then we were looking at, we have 11 other companies that, either gave us a reduced price on items, donated an item, and we would have their logo and name on it. And it's mainly, these signs would be small enough, we can put them out, but you would really have to walk up to the fence to really read it. You're not going to be able to read them from the parking lot. We didn't want it to be gaudy and all. We want to try to keep it respectful to the township property.
And that's very thoughtful.
Are those good enough? Oh, they would be, the smaller ones are, I think, 9 by 12 inch. So it's a little bigger than a piece of paper.
I'm fine with those dimensions and that.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I'm not that I know this is not the intention, but nothing, nothing controversial, nothing political or anything.
No,
which I know is not the intention.
It's just the business names. I do have one sign that will say good neighbors because 2 of my neighbors put in a lot of labor for me and, their time. So I would like them to be recognized.
That seems
But
like it's well
other-
within your discretion. I mean, that seems like a nice idea, well within your discretion.
But otherwise, it's all business logos.
Sounds good to me.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you,
Nobody has
Roseanne.
Any objections? That's
Thank
great.
you.
Uh,
Thank you all again. I think this is a real addition. I think the community garden looks wonderful. And how are you doing with sponsorships? Are you like half, over half, 3/4? Good. Okay. Well, you're happy, we're happy.
Okay, going back to item
You
B.
guys want to approve that? Let's.
Do we want to have a vote or,
Yeah, I would.
okay.
Do we want to have a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to accept
Second.
as presented
Listen.
by the garden chair, garden community gardens chair's presentation.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Anybody else in the township committee would like to comment on anything?
The Environmental Commission is having a rigid plastics recycling event on Saturday, May 17th from 10 to 2 over at the DPW yard.
And when you say rigid plastics, it means all the plastics that do not fall under recycle 1 and recycle 2, correct?
That's correct. So it's like little Tykes toys, planters, things like that.
Perfect.
And the Alliance is having our next, and I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't write down the date, but our next Music in the Square coming up, and you can look at the website for that. It's a great event, and we will be having Ari and
Chet and
Chet and
Harry.
Ari will be playing at that.
Your Porch
week.
Fest is coming up soon.
Saturday.
Porch Fest is
Saturday.
ready to go.
Saturday.
I encourage everyone to stop by at some point for some or all of it. I think it's noon to ... I think the last band is like 6 o'clock.
That should be fun.
1 to 7.
Oh, is that what it is? 1 to 7?
1 to
Okay.
7.
Okay.
I have that on my calendar.
I also wanted to say real quick is I feel like every meeting there seems to be an update from Sarucci on the green team. There seems to be an update from Denise on the Alliance. There seems to be an update from Rebecca on the Environmental Commission. And I don't want to take for granted like all the work that goes in behind the scenes for you to bring those updates to us every 2 weeks. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say thank you to the three of you.
Thank you, Matt.
And also, the Alliance had their BMX event today, and I was not able to go because I'm still recovering. But at the school advertised that very well, so I'm hoping that went well. But that's an event that was done for the kids, a BMX bicyclists that also do a anti-drug and alcohol messaging for the children.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was today.
Okay. Moving on to reports from the administration. So back to you, George.
My items of interest have all been covered through the agenda. I just want to thank Committeewoman Hughes for bringing to my attention the county grant that Joe talked about earlier for the municipal parks. That grant has been shut down, as Joe mentioned, and we were able to basically recycle our application we're going to for Fenton Lane. She hawks these grants and sends them to me at 8 and 10 o'clock at night. But I appreciate that.
You always answer too.
Well, 'cause I'm in my recliner, looking at my monitor. But I want to just acknowledge that without that, I wouldn't have caught it. I don't know if Joe had caught it or not.
I received it from a couple people before
Did you?
I even had a chance.
Okay, but that was one that hasn't been out there. So thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Hopefully we'll get it. That's all I have for tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm now going to moving on to section 10 for public comments. Can I have a motion to
So moved.
open for public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody in the public? Please go ahead.
Yes, part 2.
Again, I would please request you to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Excuse me?
I would request you to please limit your comments to 3 minutes. We will give you 1 minute more, but at the end of 3 minutes, you'll hear.
Got it. I appreciate that. Thanks for the break. My heart rate was over 100. I'm back down to 50, somewhere respectable. I don't feel like I'm going to pass out, so
Oh,
we can get this done. A lot of the questions that I had that I was.
the record.
Name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Harold Dauncey, 59 Marjoram Road. Okay, I can proceed now? Awesome.
yes.
A lot of the questions I had, Joe, he pretty much answered those. I think one of the biggest concerns as a resident, along with the other residents in the back of the room that live on Marjoram, is the width of this road. And hearing him speak and the possibility of making this a 22-foot road, was that right?
Yeah, well, without shoulders.
Without the shoulders. I would be happy with that. And I think the other residents would be happy with that. Narrowing it down, I think the field division is narrower. I think that would control speeds a little better. In the packet that I gave you folks, there are 3 reports, one by Johns Hopkins University, one by Texas A&M, and they all concluded that for every foot a road gets wider, the mile per hour picks up by 1.1. So you take a 20-foot road and make it 30, you now increase the speed by 10 mile an hour, according to their reports. And they both reported the same. So there is a correlation to width and speed. That's going to be a burden on our police department. These folks are going to have to park somebody there to give out tickets, warnings, all of that. We don't need that. We have 3 police officers per shift per day. They got better things to do. So that would be wonderful if the road consideration could be placed somewhere around that 22-foot mark. Also, the movement of a lot of the mailboxes would change, and the environmental impact. The environmental impact is huge because of surface area. We're taking a 19-foot road, we're making it now 28. You're adding 40% more asphalt to the ground. That runoff has to go somewhere. The majority of Marjoram Road is wetlands. Across the street from me, ditches. Katona is right next to me, their farm. That's farmland preserved and wetlands. So now that water has to go somewhere. Marjoram is also a dedicated wildlife, corridor. And the wildlife corridor, in simple terms, is an area where wildlife can move from one core area to another. And Marjoram is in the middle of that. That is part of our master plan. And in our master plan, it says that that corridor would be protected. So another concern. So we got the runoff, we got the habitat. By keeping that at 22 feet, the number of trees that would have to be cut down would be lessened. That's better for the habitat. We're also the home of 4 endangered species. 3 are songbirds and 1 is a silver-haired bat. They all make their homes in these trees. So that helps us. So I can see more positives to keeping it at 22 than negatives if this is something that we have to do. Is that open for discussion? I mean, is that something that the council and the mayor would give consideration to?
Well, I think we could certainly discuss it with Joe at the next meeting and just, yeah, and see what his,
That would,
I don't want to ask him right off the bat.
no, I understand.
Like,
No,
I don't
no,
think that's fair to him.
I
But I
understand.
think if he could give
Right.
it some thought
Right.
and he and Troy and look at it
Right.
and give us some, whether or not they think that would be a
Perfect.
viable.
Perfect. I have one more question. I know wetland stuff is very sensitive. And because so much of it is along the shoulders of Marjoram, isn't there going to be a delineation process that's going to have to be followed before we expand shoulders and get close to ditches and all that? So keeping it at 22 feet may minimize that. And I was involved in a delineation process in a previous place I lived, and EPA got involved, and this took forever between surveys and reports and people. So to minimize the process and the cost to the town, maybe the 22-foot road would be ideal in a lot more aspects than we think. So,
We'll have Joe look into that and
Right.
address the other concerns as well. That you
Great.
brought up.
That's great.
I
Well,
think our next meeting's in 2 weeks, so maybe we could have a further discussion about
in 2
that
weeks?
issue.
Okay,
Mhm.
perfectly. In closing this, I want to say thank you again to all of you. A lot of work went into getting to the point to stand up here in front of you. And a lot of times you put the work in and you feel that what you do falls on deaf ears. And you become disenfranchised with the whole process. So I know you heard me tonight because I got up here and I spoke, but there's people back there that signed that petition. Don't forget their voices. They're just as important as me. Okay?
Thank you.
I want to
Thank
thank you
you.
all again. Thank you.
Dan Brown, 18 Old York Road, part of the STAB committee. I'm the one who kind of brought up the tree pruning stuff. Want to be quick and brief about it. Basically, the proper method is, they say 3-step, undercut, overcut, and then finish cut by the tree collar. There's so many videos on YouTube to look that I reviewed like 8 or 10 of them, and they all tell you the same thing. They're very explanatory, so there's no reason for me to go a lot in depth on that. What I'm trying to say is the proper cut, if it's done the right way, and I kind of think there's no excuse not to do it the right way. Part of the reason of that is I purposely did something tonight is I didn't dress too proper. I have 4 buttons on my shirt. I happened to button them wrong. I did it on purpose. Now, it takes no longer to do them right as it did to do wrong. 4 buttons is 4 buttons. But if you look at me, I don't look like I'm quite put together right. I did that on purpose. So that's why I'm stressing it. Now, I brought this up, and I was told that it was only a few trees out of 100. So I went and I did an evaluation of just Harness Way. It was 2 other streets, Jockey Place, Horseshoe Place, had the same problems. The Harness Way, I walked it. Okay, you got 30 sycamore, American sycamores, 54 tulip trees, total of 84 trees. There are 5 smaller trees I did not include in this because they're little saplings. So out of the 84 trees, 14 of them were never touched, never trimmed. They didn't need to be. I think 2 of them should have been, but basically 14 were. So 70 trees were trimmed. Okay, of the 70 that I looked at, only 3 were done right. 67 of them were done wrong. That's 95.57% wrong. I don't think that's acceptable. And we're going to have tree tenders that we're teaching that are going to be volunteers. And how can we teach them the proper way when the township's not doing it the proper way? I really think somebody's got to go back and redo all the trees and do them right. That's my opinion. And I made a little evaluation sheet. Well, I'll give you copies after the meeting. Check my numbers. There's a few other parameters I checked. But I think it's an important to address. And I think if it goes beyond just a simple little thing, if you're giving your guys directions and they're not following the directions, what other jobs aren't they following? And, maybe they're not doing all the other jobs right. Maybe they're not listening to your safety concerns. Maybe they're not wearing safety equipment right. And you're going to get into injuries. Then you're going to get, it goes on and on. I say nip it in the bud. The township will be better. The crew will be better. Everybody will win. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Jeremy Leake at 103 Old York Road. When we started the Harvest Fest, I think 10 years ago, Rachel, correct? This would be the 10-year anniversary. We didn't anticipate charging anybody. It was a feel-good event that we wanted to do. We asked for donations, but we asked for certain donations. We'd ask professionals to pay for the tents. We'd ask this one to pay for that. So I think it's a mistake to charge the vendors. I know the taxpayers don't want to pick it up. I think it should go back to asking for donations, specific donations. And I'd be willing to pay for the tents if we do not charge the vendors.
Thank you.
Troy, as far as the backhoe and the street sweeper and everything go, the state buying program, we also used to look into a co-op program. We used to join co-ops. So that's what the last backhoe is paid for, through the co-ops. So I don't know if we belong to the co-ops anymore. And then one more thing. The welcome signs when you come into Chesterfield, they're all faded out. Can't read them. So we can look at replacing those.
I've been beating that drum for a year or two. Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're gonna look for.
if you can go back to that resolution and take that off the table to charge, then I'll donate the tents. Thank you.
Thank you.
We look into if we belong to the co-ops, so I don't know much about it. We
We
do.
Our backup was actually through
You do?
Sourcewell contract. So their state contracts and their co-op.
And we should revisit the sign discussion. You know, we tabled it and talked about getting sponsors. I don't think we should just leave it hanging. We should figure out what we want to do.
Well,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, we need to get that.
Yeah. Maybe I'll take the responsibility of circling up with Troy just to kind of talk about next steps. The welcome to Chesterfield signs. Yeah.
Is that something we can have Eagle Scouts projects do, or, you know?
We took it out. Yeah. But I think we took it out with the idea that we would search
Yeah,
for
yeah, we would get
sponsorships.
somebody to
Yes.
pay
Um,
for it rather.
So I'll circle up with you, Troy. Let's talk about what we could do next. Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anyone online?
Anybody online?
Motion to
Motion to close public comments.
So moved.
Second,
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I don't believe we have an executive session because we had it before the meeting, so we can go on to adjourn.
Do you want to, there was the one question asked about the tents. You gave
I think
Rachel
we can
direction
discuss
to,
that in the future.
that's fine. I just wanted to, that's out there and we gave Rachel direction to tell everybody to charge and then this was brought up, so I don't know where that leaves you.
I mean, I'm comfortable with our decision.
That's fine. I just want to make sure everything was answered, that's
Yeah.
all.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.